Hi, everyone. I'd like to thank you for joining us today. Today we're going to review IBM Integrated Analytics System, also known as Sailfish. It's just about 12 o'clock now. Let's give it maybe another minute or two for a few stragglers to show up, and then we'll start. Thank you. All right, everyone, I think we're going to start now. Again, thank you for attending today. The purpose of today is to go over IBM's Integrated Analytics System, the latest iteration of the data warehouse appliance. At any time during the presentation, if anybody would like to ask a question, please feel free to. There's a question box. You see it down at the below. Just type in whatever you want. I'll do the best I can to kind of answer you in line and possibly tailor the conversation a bit more to you. All right, so here's our agenda for today. One, we'll do some introductions, but after that, we're going to do an overview of what IaaS is. That's kind of how it's abbreviated, IaaS, because IBM Integrated Analytics Systems is a little bit long. So IaaS. We're going to go over the hybrid advantage. So we're going to go over how IBM has a hybrid data strategy. And then we're going to go a little bit over NetTiza, also known as the PDA appliance, and how people are converting that to the new IaaS system. Okay. And then Q&A, but again, at any time, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask. Here's just a picture of our team, some of our members. I'm Mark Martina, so I'm going to be one doing the presentation today. But if you do hear from us, these are some of the people who you might actually run into, either from a technical point of view or from an account rep point of view. So there's one little slide on who we are. Technology Dynamics, also known as TechD, is premier IBM business partner, and we specialize in anything related to data. So whether it's analytics with Cognos, predictive analytics with SPSS, any type of Db2, Hadoop implementations, obviously the appliance, anything ETL related, and we cover all of US and Canada. So let's kind of start right into it. So IBM Integrated Analytics System, also again known as Sailfish. So Sailfish is kind of the name of the iteration of it. When you were in the NetTiza world, there was things like Mako. Before that, we had Striper. Before that, there was TwinFin. And so the latest, greatest model is called Sailfish. And a lot like NetTiza and its predecessors, it's designed to be simple, easy to use. It's an appliance that gets dropped off. It's ready to go. It's extremely fast, blazing performance, but it's a lot different than the older appliance. So IBM has taken this opportunity to kind of give it a facelift. So they took the older kind of technologies, and what they've done is they've upped it with newer hardware. And I'm going to go into more detail with it, but instead of using Intel, it now uses power chips. It has a lot of blue acceleration because they've actually changed the operating system, the actual database from Postgres to what's called Db2 Warehouse. They've taken some older technologies and they brought it up to date with the newer technologies, but they still made it very simple and very easy to use, which is one of the biggest advantages of NetTiza. It just worked. Right? Write once, run anywhere. All right, so that has to do with the integration and being able to go with the common SQL engine. And again, I'll go into more details with that. Machine learning seems to be a big deal as well, and so they've added a lot of things for machine learning, which wasn't really something that Netezza was designed for, but now it is. And then there is a lot of flexibility with how you can upgrade it, with its high availability and the type of mixed workloads. Netezza was definitely very single-focused on workloads, and this actually has a little bit broader of a workload ability. That's where the flexibility comes from. Okay. So again, simplicity. A lot like the Netezza appliance, what's nice about it is there's no installation, there's no nothing. You pretty much, open up the door, IBM comes in, installs and configures everything for you, and you're up and running right out of the gate. No configuration, no storage administrators, no physical data modeling needed, no indexes, no tuning. Typically, if you're installing a database on your own, you need somebody to actually produce a server. Right? You need disk. A lot of times the disk isn't in the servers anymore. It's in some network fan. Usually it's another person, another department. They need the operating system installed. They need somebody to install the database on top. They need to integrate everything together. And if you have any system problems, any performance problems, you have to get the entire team together to see whose problem it was. You get a lot of he said, she said. The appliance just gets rid of all that. They drop it off. It's ready to go. It's simple, easy to use. From an ETL developer point of view, what's great about it is you don't really need aggregate tables. You can do it, but it's really designed not to. Remember, the appliance is driven based upon the need. It's only a data warehouse. It's nothing else. So it assumes it's a warehouse, and as a result, it's designed, configured, and optimized to be a warehouse out of the box without any changes, without any tweaks. So it's going to run faster than pretty much anything else you have, just by loading it, nothing else. Right? And then obviously the whole purpose of this is to get the data out. So from a business analytics point of view, you're not really going to have to tune. There's no indexes. There's not a lot of tuning. I've seen some people go from Netezza to other databases, and the headache is just off the charts because now they have to tune SQL. Now they have to add indexes, and something that they thought was very simple from a migration point of view is not. So when you migrate from one appliance to another, it's not just, well, how easy do I get the data from A to B? It's, well, my SQL statements are going to be the same. My workload is going to be the same. Is it going to work? Is it not going to work? Am I going to have to index things? Am I going to have to partition things? And you're going to if you don't go to the newer appliance. Right. And again, everybody loves speed. So 2 to 5. So what does that mean? That means that the new appliance is 2 to 5 times faster, depending on what you're doing, than the old iteration, which was Mako. So if you have a quarter rack, a half rack of Mako, the equivalent of that for Sailfish is going to be 2 to 5 times the speed. Right? There's a few reasons for that. One is the hardware is better, and two is the database is actually better. It's more optimized. All right. So again, Netezza was using what's called PostgreSQL. Database has been around for a long time. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's kind of getting outdated. There's a lot of technologies out there and a lot of enhancements that really are not in PostgreSQL. As a result, the new database, new operating system that's put on top of this, in conjunction with the hardware, gives you that experience where now things are 2 to 5 times faster. So if a query comes back in 5 minutes, well, now it's going to come back in 1 minute. Big difference. And some of the ways it does that, there's memory optimization. So it's in-memory blue columnar processing. So that blue technology, again, is IBM born, and it's designed for data warehousing. Data skipping, which is something that Netezza does as well, is it literally will skip the data off the drive. A lot of traditional databases will read all the data, and once it reads all the data, it'll determine whether that data is needed or not needed. As a result, it puts a lot larger of a load on your disk. Disk is probably one of the slowest things in the actual appliance itself, even with the flash drives. So if you avoid disk usage, you're upping performance massively. Another thing which is nice too is compression. Right? Again, it assumes it's a warehouse. You don't have to go through and pick one of 4 or 5 different compressions like a lot of other databases. Give you the option of, it assumes it's a warehouse. It has a built-in compression. There are no choices. It just works. And usually the compression gives you 3 to 4 times X, the 3 or 4X. So if you have 4 terabytes of data, it's only going to need 1 terabyte of disk space probably. And that means that if there's less data, that you're pulling back, that means your disk is going to be faster, right? So if the data is compressed, 4-to-1 ratio, my disk is now 4 times faster because the data set's smaller. If I'm skipping data and I skip 3 out of 4 pieces of data because I don't need them, now my disk is going to be 6 times faster. And then that combined with memory optimization, it makes it kind of a juggernaut. Speed, performance, and ease of use. That's what the appliance does. And again, machine learning is something that really wasn't that big back in the day when the TISA first came onto the market, but it's a big deal now. And as a result, IBM has taken that and added the features and functionality to make sure that it does work with machine learning. One of the things that they've done is they've added Spark. So if you're familiar with Spark, I'm not really sure, but what Spark essentially is it's, think of it as a memory wrapper. So your database, your actual data itself is wrapped with Spark, and it's a buffer, an in-memory RAM buffer. And so what it does is it allows read and write to go much faster, much quicker than it normally would because of this in-memory caching. In addition to adding Spark, they've actually added what's called, in this case it says DSX, but it's been renamed recently to what's called Watson Data Platform. Watson Data Platform is essentially a predictive analytics and machine learning platform designed for professionals to do analytics, predictive analytics, and machine learning. It has things like Jupyter Notebooks. You can use R or Python to actually write any type of code you want, and it has all the different algorithms built into it. So when you buy the appliance, it comes with 5 licenses of that. So if you have 4 or 5 different people who do a lot of different predictive analytics, you have a data science team, 4 or 5 people, you're going to have to buy the license that's built in. If your team's a little larger than that, then maybe you have to add a license or 2. But that data science experience is built in. So your data science environment is actually now on the appliance itself. The way it works is the appliance is fast, and you don't want the data to leave the appliance unless you need it. You want the summarized data, the results set to leave it, but that's it. Because the appliance itself is the fastest thing dealing with the data itself. Now, if your data scientists are using R or Python or any type of language that they want to do any of the predictive learning with, machine learning, they can actually use this environment which is stored and runs on the appliance itself. So again, speed and ease of use. That's been added and built in and comes with the product right out of the box. And again, in addition to things like machine learning, you're always going to use BI and visualization tools. So whether it's something like Cognos or another product like a Tableau for dashboards or MicroStrategy, or even if you're connecting to it with something like Excel, you're going to be able to do that directly, and it's designed for analytics, and it's going to come back very rapidly. Nobody wants a slow dashboard. Nobody wants a slow report. Again, this is going to speed things up. And if you're comparing it to the predecessor, it's going to be 2 to 5 times the speed of what the predecessor was. Now, hybrid's a big deal, and I'm going to go into this in more detail. One of the things is it's called Common SQL Engine. You're going to hear that from me a lot over the next few minutes. So what happens is IBM has multiple products, and those products all use the same SQL engine. So whether it's this appliance, or whether it's Db2 or Db2 Warehouse in the cloud, or whether it's Hadoop, because they have a bolt-on for Hadoop as well called Big SQL that speeds up your queries and uses the exact same engine. That means one query will work anywhere. All right, write once, run anywhere. And that's a big advantage. Especially everybody's talking about cloud now, cloud. It's not that easy to just take everything and dump it in the cloud. But if you have this ability to kind of move things at your own pace from one environment to another without the users knowing, then it's not a jump to the cloud. It's an easy transition to the cloud. And I'm going to go into that in a little bit more detail as well. Again, if there's any questions, please feel free to just ask and let me know. And let's see. And of course, flexibility is a big deal as well. There's a lot of things built into this that allows it to be flexible. One thing that's nice about it is in-place incremental expansion. So if you had an appliance before and you bought a quarter rack or a half rack and you wanted to upgrade that to a half or a full, you couldn't do that really. So what would happen is you'd have to buy the larger version and trade in the old or move it as a DR environment or a dev environment or something like that. So what they've done here is they've given you that flexibility to say, well, I need a third right now, a partial rack, and I want to go full later on. Well, we'll just expand it later on in place. You don't have to worry about any migration. You don't have to worry about purchasing something new, trading in your old. You can just upgrade to the next iteration in place. Okay. Another thing that they've added as well is some type of tiered storage. Right? So they've added actually two sets of disks. So there's your traditional disk, which you're going to have all your analytics on, that you're using all inside out, day in and day out, and that's going to be on the flash drive. But they've also given the option of having older spinner type drives for actually large volume sets. So if you have 100 terabytes, 200 terabytes, 500 terabytes of data, a lot of times nobody put that in their Netezza appliance because it wasn't designed for that. It was too expensive because there just wasn't that much disk. Well, now they've made it so there's two sets of disks. You've got your fast disk, and you've got your slower, more cold versus warm disk. And so you have that ability to actually put in large volumes of data versus archiving them in something like Hadoop. Hadoop was always, one of its big uses was archiving of structured data because things like Netezza were too expensive. Now that's gone away. If you want to use Hadoop, great. If you don't, you don't have to. You can just keep it right in the appliance itself. Again, it still has the blazing speed for complex queries. One of the big advantages of Netezza was you could hit it with any query you wanted, no matter how good or how bad. The worse it was, the more it seemed to love it, and it would just work, and that's still the same way. Right. Again, things like fast deployment time, the client shows up, you're good to go. Managed workloads, it manages everything on its own. One thing that's nice too is it's able to have a lot more workloads in parallel than it did before. One of the weaknesses for Netezza was that if there were a lot of queries running simultaneously, it would sometimes get a little bogged down. In addition to the hardware upgrades and the software, with the software upgrades, you now have a system that's actually better for those type of workloads. So if at 100 or 200 queries, Netezza would slow down, the new IaaS appliance is not going to. It'll go through the 100, the 200, the 300, the 400. So it's designed to be able to actually do more parallel processing work at high volumes than the older appliance was. So if that's an issue that someone's having, this is definitely going to be the solution for you. So what's IBM's strategy? Well, a lot of people talk about cloud, talk about on-prem. IBM is actually talking about both. That's what their hybrid is. Their strategy going forward is hybrid approach. So I can have my appliance on-prem, or I can have that same software in the cloud, or I can install that same software on my own hardware, even though it probably won't be as fast, on-prem as well. What does that mean? Well, that means that I can have my production environment as an appliance on-prem, but maybe my DR environment I'll have in the cloud because it's off-site, it's managed by someone else, and I don't have to buy another appliance. Or maybe my development environment will be in the cloud. Because, again, one of the weaknesses that people had with Netezza was if you bought a Netezza appliance for production and somebody wanted a smaller development environment or they wanted some type of sandbox environment, they would have to buy another appliance, and it'll be very costly. Now they don't have to do that anymore. They can just spin up a small instance of it in the cloud. It won't be as powerful as the appliance itself, but it'll be identical under the covers. So I can back up from one, restore it in the other. The SQL from one will match the SQL from the other exactly. So it gives you all that different flexibility that you never had before. Right. That's the hybrid approach. So again, what's in it for you? All right. One of the things that I think is best about it is a controlled journey to the cloud. If you want to go to the cloud, great. If you don't want to go to the cloud, That's fine. You don't have to. A lot of people are talking about different options. And the cloud does give you some flexibility. Even if you don't want to go necessarily 100% cloud, maybe a DR environment or a simple sandbox environment in the cloud is good for you. This gives you that ability. So you have the on-prem traditional warehouse, the traditional appliance. And again, as I was saying before, I could take the exact same thing and put it in the cloud, or I could have it on-prem as well, because the software is now available for download. The teaser, the way it worked, is that software came with the box, and that was it. You couldn't install any other hardware, it wouldn't work. The way the software works now, in addition to be more efficient and more updated with a lot more features, things like the machine learning, it also has the ability to be installed on more traditional hardware. So if I have a whole bunch of x86 boxes, or if I have a few VMs, I can install the software on those servers themselves. I can do it as a single server or multiple MPP type environment. And that gives me the ability to have maybe a cheaper non-prod environment versus the appliance for prod and a non-prod. And just so everybody knows, I mean, obviously you can take notes, but if anybody needs a copy of this at the end, this presentation is going to be sent to anyone who's actually registered for this webinar. So there's no need to kind of copy down, exact numbers as I start getting into some details. Okay. Accelerate time to value, start small and move fast. Right? Maybe you're not ready for an appliance today. Maybe you want a small instance, just try it out, and then maybe later on, if you need it, go to an appliance. Well, now you can do that. Right? You can either have a small implementation on-prem or a small implementation in the cloud. Work with it, try it, and then if your need increases, you can then take that and go with it and migrate it to the actual appliance itself. And as for the migration, it's the same code under the covers. So it's literally a backup from one, a restore to the other. So a couple hours later, you back up from one, restore to the other, repoint everything from A to B, you're done. No code changes, no nothing, just work straight out of the box. Yeah, that's a write once, run anywhere application paradigm. So I can point something to the cloud, point it on-prem, back and forth, no problems whatsoever. So that hybrid strategy, so that SQL engine is pretty much present everywhere. So data warehouse, DB2 warehouse on the cloud. So the underlying architecture, the underlying operating system is called DB2 warehouse. Right? So even if you get a brand new appliance, it's still called DB2 warehouse. Right? That's what's actually installed on it, and it's installed using what's called a Docker image. So Docker and containers is kind of the future, and so IBM is kind of with it. If anything, they're kind of at the forefront of it. So you don't have to install things anymore. What you do is you kind of just have Docker on your Linux system, and then you just implement an image. So if I want to go from a newer version, I don't uninstall or reinstall. There's no setup.exe or anything like that. It's just an image, and that image contains the entire database, and I can just swap out the old for the new, and now I've upgraded, which works out great. So that means that my integrated analytics system, or my DB2 warehouse on-prem, or my DB2 warehouse on the cloud literally uses the exact same image, the exact same code. Right? That's how you know it's going to be completely compatible if I back up from one and restore from the other. It is literally the same thing. Now, the cloud, or if you install on your own, it's not going to have that hardware boost that the appliance is going to have, but it's still going to have that same ease of use, the same lack of indexes. And then again, what's nice about it too is that common SQL engine. So not only do these three components have the same code, the same SQL engine, it also shares the same SQL engine with DB2 and with Big SQL. So Big SQL is kind of IBM's bolt-on to Hadoop. So whether you're using Horton or Cloudera, if you decide to use Hadoop and use Big SQL with it, that SQL engine is going to be identical. So whatever complex SQL I write, whatever funky functions I put into it, whatever I do, it's still going to work if I go against Hadoop or I go against my appliance, or I go against the cloud. So you don't have to learn multiple syntaxes for SQL. Don't have to worry about any of that stuff. It's just going to work. What's nice too is they've added something called data virtualization. It used to be called fluid query. So let's say you have multiple data sources. So in addition to the appliance, you have SQL Server and Oracle and whatever else that's out there, MySQL. And rather than have the users connect to all four and not know what's going on, you can do what's called data virtualization. So the technology will actually connect behind the scenes to these other databases so that a user can just query the actual appliance itself or Db2 warehouse itself, and from there, get the data from all the other databases. So it simplifies their life, simplifies their view of their data. Right? I don't have to disconnect from one system, connect to another, disconnect, connect to another, and kind of go through them all. I connect to one-stop shop, and that's going to show me all my data for all these other sources, no matter who they are. And it just makes everything easier and simpler. And again, I'm going to have that one same common SQL engine. So what's kind of happened over the years? Right? So what happened was IBM had Db2 Warehouse before, and it was originally called DB. They took a lot of their existing technologies and they created this from scratch, but it was kind of more of a cut and paste of a lot of technologies they had that were proven. And then they put them together, and obviously they refined it, enhanced it. So that was standalone. And then they had Netezza. What happened was Netezza was great, but Netezza was getting a little dated. Again, PostgreSQL, commoditized hardware. So what they've done is they've kind of taken those two paths and they've combined them together. And so now they've been able to add a lot of things. Now it's a managed service attached to a next generation appliance, or the software could be in a private cloud. So what they did was they took two separate streams, and now it's one stream. So again, the appliance versus Db2 Warehouse in the cloud versus Db2 Warehouse on a private cloud, on-prem somewhere, there's no difference. It's all interchangeable. You can mix and match workloads. I can put some heavier workloads on my appliance. I can put some light workloads in the cloud. Or maybe I have machine learning data coming in from outside. I can leave it outside in the cloud, but I can still pair it up with data that's on-prem because the underlying technology is going to be identical. Same code base, literally the same Docker image. That flexibility to me is unparalleled. What is it under the covers? Right? So this was the first iteration of Sailfish. Sailfish came out originally probably about 1.5 years ago, and it was called the M4001 series. They have a 3, a 6, and a 10. Right? And so this was, again, you don't have to write any of this stuff down. You're going to end up getting this. But the way it works is instead of it being quarter, half, and full rack, they have 1/3, 2/3, and full rack. So it's designed a little bit differently than the older appliance, size-wise. There's the amount of cores, the amount of actual memory, and then the capacity, assuming a 4x compression. Right. But this was the 4001, and they quickly actually replaced that with what's called the 4002. So they decided to improve it and enhance it even more. Right. It still has the 3, 6, and 10, so the 1/3, 2/3, and full rack. Right. But they've changed. The biggest changes, one of the biggest changes, without a doubt, was the flash storage. They've increased the flash storage, actually changed it for a different manufacturer. It's actually larger and better than it was before. And they've added that tier storage, which didn't exist before at all. And these numbers, again, are assuming, well, you assume a 4x compression, these numbers are not showing that. Right? So what I did was I kind of put everything together for you in this slide. Right? So the 4002 has larger disk capacity and also has that cold storage, so it can take it from the fast disk and move it to the slower tier 2 disk. If you want to see, and these numbers are not the disk itself, it's assuming a 4x compression. So if you want to know the size of the actual disk, you would have to do a divide by 4. But this is a great way to show you maximum capacity and a comparison between the two. So if you want a brand new 4002, the capacity is going to be 108 terabytes. That's flash storage with a 4x compression. Right? And that's a lot. 216 for 2/3, 324 for an actual full appliance. Now down here, it's the exact same thing, but it has an S on it. The S essentially means that tiered slower storage. Okay? But it's slower, but it's very large in size. So instead of it being 108 terabytes, it's still there as a flash, but now it adds another 236. So if you get actually a 06 combined storage, you have more than half a petabyte. So one of the things about this that I've seen, like the way things are going, is a lot of people talk about Hadoop. Hadoop was a great buzzword back in the day. Now we've got Cloudera and Horton merging together, and the reason why they're doing that is Hadoop ended up not being the end-all, be-all that most people thought it was going to be. Right? It's easy to get data into Hadoop, but it's hard to get data out efficiently, and it's hard to administer. It takes a lot of people and a lot of work and a lot of effort to keep Hadoop up and running. And even though it's commoditized hardware, you know, you're usually storing it 3 times. So it's 3 times the amount of commoditized hardware, right? 3 times the amount of servers. As a result, it ended up not being as cheap as people thought, especially when you take the actual man hours into account, right? And work and things like that. And then usability wasn't quite there. So now if you're not using any type of, you know, crazy unstructured data sets, just data sets mostly structured or semi-structured, you can take all that and now put it on this flash disk. I could take a half a petabyte of data in Hadoop and just migrate it right into my appliance, no problem at all. And things that I use more often will be on the fast disk, the flash, and then older things will be on the tier 2 disk. Right. That'd be the colder things. So it gives you a lot more flexibility. And what's nice again too is maybe you don't add it out of the gate. You decide to go with just the tier 1, and later on you want the tier 2. They just come in, they install it in the appliance itself. There's no need to trade it in for a new appliance. There's no need for downtime. It's all hot swappable. Okay. So it works out great. So if you're a current Netezza customer, you probably have something like this, right? So the little guy here on the left, that's what's called the mini Mako. And then the other ones are the physical large appliances, kind of like the skinny refrigerator, and they came in quarter, half, and full. Now it's 1/3, 2/3, and full. Which I noticed I didn't show you the mini version of Sailfish. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One, you don't necessarily have to have the appliance version if you don't want to, because you could actually take the DB2 warehouse software itself, that image, that Docker containerized image, and install on your own hardware, and in effect creating kind of your mini version. So that's one reason. And the other reason is that based upon that, IBM decided not to come out with the mini Sailfish originally, but based upon popular demand, I've been informed that it is coming out. And as early as March, they're going to announce the exact details of it and when it's going to be released. So if you're looking to go from a mini Mako to a mini Sailfish, you're going to be able to, not today, but most likely in the next 2 to 3 months. Right? And again, the technology is going to be the same. The underlying image is going to be the same. So if you decide to go from a mini to a third later on, it's just a backup and restore, because under the covers, it's the exact same technology. So hybrid data warehouse, what's in it for you? Here's kind of some bullet points I kind of threw together, things that I've seen in the field that I think are really appropriate. One thing that's nice is it enables a controlled journey to the cloud. Nobody else really could do that. So if you want to go to something else in the cloud that's not, you know, IBM, you're going to have to pretty much do a dump and just convert everything over one day and kind of hope it works. There's nothing controlled really. You have to move all the data over, you got to migrate everything, and then you have to connect, and then hope everything just works and performance is great. And if it's not, well, you'll probably have to either move it back or double or triple the size of your actual cloud implementation, which of course doubles, triples the size of, you know, your price. Right? Well, here you can have it on-prem, you can make sure it works perfectly. But if you want to migrate it to the cloud, you can migrate everything. You can migrate just a set of tables. You can actually have replication set up so they're identical, and then you can just slowly point applications from one to the other. It makes something that's a big dump, something that's now easy, smooth, and controlled. And if you're doing something as big as moving to the cloud, I think that's very important. It's not that easy. especially with all the egress charges that everyone charges. IBM Cloud does not, but Amazon, Azure, I believe Google as well, they'll have these egress charges, which means that it's free to bring it up, but you got to pay to bring it back down. So if you want to access your data on-prem from their cloud, you have to pay. And it adds up quick, and it's a kind of a hidden cost that most people don't take into account. This gives you that nice even flow. If you're running any issues, you can continue, not continue, work through it. You have that flexibility. The other way is kind of an all or nothing approach. That's a little scary. Again, start small, move fast. You make it very easy. Move a few tables over, or replicate everything, and move a few apps over. Very simple. Write once, run anywhere. Again, it's the exact same technology. On cloud versus on-prem versus installed on your own versus the appliance. It's the exact same thing. So there's no rewrite. There's no doing anything else. Okay. And again, IBM does not charge for data bandwidth usage. Okay. One thing too that's nice is Guardium. IBM's pretty much top tier when it comes to security. Their security product Guardium is actually included in the cloud offering. So you can actually go to Db2 Warehouse in the cloud. It'll actually have that as part of the offering. You can get it on-prem as well, but that's sold separately. It's an add-on package. But since IBM is monitoring it and taking care of it, and it's their software, it's kind of just a value add to have it in the cloud. And of course, everything in the cloud will be fully managed. And IBM also offers fully managed service if you don't want to go to the IBM cloud. You can go to Amazon or Azure, and they'll still fully manage it if you want. And we go into details about that because it gets a little complicated on offering differences and things like that. Right. Again, that common SQL engine was very important, and it works against a whole variety of different products. And here's a list of different advantages. Okay. And again, we'll go through this. You'll be able to actually have this sent to you, so you won't have to really write anything down. But it makes everything very easy, very simple. And that's the whole purpose of it. But again, I think IBM can provide pretty much what no other vendor can provide because of that hybrid approach. I really don't know anybody who does that. Even if you use SQL Server on-prem or in the cloud, they're actually different code bases, so it's not the same product. Things like Oracle, Azure, Snowflake, they actually are only in the cloud, or they're different between on-prem or the cloud. And as a result, you don't have this ability. You literally have to go all in, hope for the best, and your backup plan is probably not that good, and whatever it is, it's going to be really expensive. But here, you can have it on-prem, it'll just work, and then if you want to go to the cloud, it's very easy, very controlled transition, and you minimize your risk and your cost outlay. And again, just another diagram to kind of reiterate it. I can have it on-prem, in a private cloud, or in a public cloud. It's very simple to do all that, and I can do all of them at the same time. So I can have one environment on, I can have my production on-prem. I can have my, DR in a private cloud, and I can have my development environment in a public cloud. It's the exact same code base. I can replicate between them all. ETL job that points to one can just point to all of them. The analytics, predictive analytics I'm doing can point to one or to all of them. It's the exact same code under the covers. So write once, run anywhere. And again, it's kind of the no slide. So this is the reason to go with actually Db2 Warehouse if you're not going, if you're coming from something besides Netezza. This was for Netezza as well. You don't need armies of administrators. You usually need two people, one person to admin and one people to take over when that person's on vacation. That's pretty much it. So trapping your data on a platform, you can move to any platform you want, whether it's cloud, on-prem. No tuning and no configuration. It's a data warehouse. It knows the warehouse. It's going to run as a warehouse. No indexes, no tuning, no partitioning. It does it for you automatically. So storage administrators, you have a SAN guy who's involved. Everything's integrated in it. No physical data modeling needed. Everything just works. And then, of course, added a whole bunch of things that weren't there before. So in-place expansion is great. Single support number is great. So again, if you have an issue with something and you're kind of piecemealing everything together? Is it the disk guy? Is it the OS? Is it the hardware itself? What's our problem? Single number, single support, everything's integrated. All right. Very simple, very easy to use. All right. And again, a lot of the hardware has been changed. So now it's all power architecture. So the Intel chips are gone. They've replaced it with IBM Power architecture and replaced everything with flash storage. So if you have a current Intel appliance, if you get a call from IBM, it's usually because too many of your spinner disks have died and they need to come replace them. Well, the probability of a flash storage going down is 99.999% reliable. Right? So most likely it won't go down. And it's going to be massively faster. Right? So it's a win-win in both categories. And again, the hardware is optimized for big data analytics performance. So if you buy Db2 Warehouse and you install it on your own, you can do that, but nothing is going to beat the appliance itself. The physical hardware was designed to run fast as an analytics engine as per your big data needs. Right. So the processors can handle 4 times the amount of threads as the x86 Intel processors could. It has 4 times the memory, 6 times the cache. So it's hardware superiority without a doubt. You're not going to be able to replicate this if you just piecemeal a bunch of products together. And so last one, if you want to migrate from a PDA, which is your T appliance, to an IaaS, a couple things you should know. One, which is great, is if you buy a new appliance from IBM, or if you even do the Db2 Warehouse, I believe, in the cloud, IBM will actually upgrade you. Definitely this quarter. In the past, they have as well. Not sure about Q2 or going forward, but they will upgrade you for free from the one appliance to the other, or from your appliance to Db2 Warehouse in the cloud. To be honest, it's not that hard of a migration. I think it's 98% backwards compatible in most cases, but there are some tweaks here and there, and IBM is willing to do that for free. So there really is no migration cost, which is great. Right? And what's provided in that? Planning and strategy. For the best upgrade experience. They do it all the time. To be honest, we do it with them all the time. You can always ask us as well. Database schema conversion, the data movement, they're going to take care of. So they're going to move it from one to the other, so you don't have to worry about that. Your operational scripts and routines, they're going to convert those. So if you have NZ loads, again, it's very similar. So now they have a DB2 load instead of an NZ load because they kept it very similar. Under the covers, it works the same way. So it is pretty backward compatible. But then if you have ETL tools like DataStage, Informatica, or any other ETL tool, they're going to actually convert that for you as well. And then they're also going to support you for your internal testing. Always good to test, right? But there are a few differences. I kind of threw out a few data type differences. A couple things are not supported, but to be honest, they're not really used too much either. Like the geometric data type, I've never even used it. So anything that's really used is still available in the new appliance. The other ones are kind of obscure data types which aren't really used. Like the interval, nobody really uses that. The geometric data type, nobody really uses that. Time with a time zone, and people just use the time or a timestamp. They don't actually do that either. As a result, those 3 are not in the newer appliance because they're not really used, and so we streamline things a little bit. But everything else gets converted over either directly or with a few tweaks here and there. There's actually scripts that actually do that automatically for you, which is great. And here are a couple of useful links. So if you want to actually take a look, the database conversion workbench does exactly that. It kind of is a step-by-step from converting to an older appliance to the newer appliance. And again, there are a bevy of different reasons to do that, including performance and usability. Right? And then the client container. So again, everything's used based on containerization, using Docker images. Containers are massively more efficient than VM servers, so VMware. You can run it on top of VM if you want to, but if you want to run on base hardware, I believe it's 30% more efficient than a VM image. So that's an option for you. Right? And I think that's pretty much it. Does anybody have any questions, thoughts, theories at this point? Again, there are major enhancements between the old appliance and the new appliance. If you don't have an appliance at all, There are a lot of different reasons to go with either the appliance or DB2 warehouse. The lack of a need to partition, because it partitions automatically, or to do right indexes, I think is priceless. And you really notice it if you see somebody try to actually leave like DB2 Warehouse or Netezza and try another database. I've seen it at a few clients, and it just doesn't work because the system is designed to handle large queries that are very difficult to handle. And it assumes that it's a warehouse. You don't have to worry about indexing. You don't have to worry about partitioning. It's all pre-done for you. The thing just works. We have one client who will try to go from a small Netezza appliance to SQL Server. 3 months later, their entire goal was just to get the queries to come back, not to come back fast. And they're going to need a lot of help and a lot of work. And to be honest, the migration is going to cost more money than a new appliance would have cost for them. So it doesn't really make any sense. So, any questions? Okay, well, that's great. Again, this slide deck will be provided to everyone afterwards. So you'll get an email from someone as long as you've registered, or someone on your team is registered, you'll get an email. If you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to me directly or to one of the other people on the team. We can answer anything you want. We can do a presentation specifically for you. One thing we also do too is we do an on-site assessment. So if you need an assessment of your current system, of where you're at, where you want to go, how you would do that, we can easily do that for you as well. It's actually usually an actual free one-day assessment too, so there's no cost to you. And that's pretty popular amongst a lot of our users. Again, thank you for your time, and I really appreciate it. Have a great day.